inspiring. Baruch Hashem, we're so lucky to have Rabbi Wine as our Mara Asr in our Kehila, and we feel, my family feels really lucky to be a part of this shul, and this chizuk, this get together has been really inspiring for us. So big yasher koach to everybody for coming, for participating, for sending emails, for sending ideas, and it's really, really, really great. What I would like to address right now, we are in this parsha is the parsha of Achrei Kedoshim, which is a collection of a lot of different ideas, which one would think are helping our society. But in Judaism, it's not just about building a perfect society, but rather there's actually a call for all of us to be Kedoshim, right? Right in the beginning of Parshas Kedoshim, it's in fact the only parsha where Hashem tells Moshe to address everybody together. Vaydaber Hashem el Moshe lemor, daber el kol adat bnei Israel. ואמרת להם קדושים תהיו כי קדוש אני השם אלוקיכם. דבר את כל עדת בני ישראל. Speak to the entire Jewish people. Now what does that mean? Normally Moshe Rabbeinu would teach Aaron, and then he would teach the children of Aaron, and then he would teach the Zakanim, and then he would teach Bnei Israel, and then he would leave and Aaron would teach. There was a whole procession of how they would teach. But here Moshe Rabbeinu taught everyone together at the same time this parsha of Kedoshim to you, because there's this important lesson here that Kedoshim, Kedusha, living a life of holiness, of spirituality, is not something that is just for the elite few, is not something that is geared just to rabbis, to priests, to monks, to people who wear long robes. That's not what Kedusha is all about in Judaism. We've discussed this a few times in our shul, that Kedusha is something that is relevant to each and every one of us in our homes. And the mitzvos that appear in this week's parsha of Kedoshim to you are the mitzvos that are sort of the bedrock of Judaism. The famous of Ahavta l'recha kamocha, Zekla Gadol B'Torah is in the middle of this week's parsha. But before I even get, and I want to focus on a few mitzvos in this parsha, just to focus on one mitzvah, which appears in Achrei Mos, is the mitzvah of V'chai Bahem, that Hashem says, I'm giving you all these mitzvos, V'chai Bahem, and a person should live with them. And this is something that embodies this entire time period. It's a time period where we needed to be makpid on that mitzvah of we don't do the mitzvos in order to chas v'shalom get injured by them. Rather, we do the mitzvos in order to live by them. And this was our nisayon, the Jewish people's nisayon across the entire world, is to know how to be extra careful when it comes to pikuach nefesh during this time period. And then once we were in pikuach nefesh, I just want to share with you a few new insights that I felt, that I understood specifically during this time period from mitzvos that appear in Parshas Kedoshim. Because as I always say, I look forward to our meetups because it brings out of me an opportunity to look and to reflect on the situation that we're in right now and what lessons do we learn from it for our life. So I want to share with you, something that I noticed this week, but it's also something that I've realized over this entire time period. So my kids moved on to online learning, which means for some of them it's by phone, for others it's by Zoom. And for my oldest, it's a whole system. He was, we created a Gmail account for him, and then there is Google Class, where it's like an online virtual classroom with work and sheets and this. And then there is Google Hangouts, where he can hang out with his friends during class, in between classes. He's learning bechavrusa through Google Meet and all of these things. Suddenly, my 14-year-old son is an expert in technology far beyond what I am an expert in technology. And some of us, we're having a hard time with the technology. And we're like, this whole new generation is generation of technology, of data, of information. And one young student can have more information and data in his fingertips, literally, than the great professor in the university that spent 30, 40 years studying for something. But the student, if he wants to get specific information, he might have access to more data and to more information than the professor who studied and majored in a specific topic. So in a certain way, there's the feeling of the future is in the hand of the children, of the youth, of the next generation. But I think one thing that I've learned in the last a month and a half is that we're all really craving, and this is something to be said specifically within the Jewish community, is that there's something innate in human nature, and specifically by us, when we value it so much, that we're craving that connection and that relationship, specifically with the older generation. Right before Pesach, my wife and I mentioned this to you, with the kids, we called up Bubi and Zaidi, right? Bubi and Zaidi, my wife's grandparents. And we were planning on spending Seder with them this year in Chutz La'aretz. And we were excited. We were going to spend Seder with them for the first time in 3 years. We haven't been there. So it's really the first time in 4 years. And then the plans obviously changed. So we called up, obviously we've been in touch with them, but we called up before Pesach saying, Zaidi, can you remind us and teach us the nigunim of how we say the Leila Seder? When do we stop? When do you go up? And when do you go down? And when do you this? And together we went through almost the entire Haggadah, my wife and the kids. And at the end, it sort of became this spontaneous. We got to Lashana Haba B'Yerushalayim. We just sang Lashana Haba B'Yerushalayim. It was a very special moment. And in that moment, I realized how important that is for us and how important it is for our children. And I think that's one of the unique mitzvos that we have in this week's parsha, in Parshas Kedoshim. It says, Mipnei Seva Takum Vehadarta Pnei Zaken. You should stand up in front of Seva, in front of, it means old age, Od Yanevun Beseva, and also Vehadarta Pnei Zaken, and you should give honor and glory in the face of somebody who is elder. So there's a few things here that bothered me linguistically with the lashon of the pasuk. Mipnei Seva Takum, it should have said Lifnei Seva Takum. Mipnei is a very interesting word. It has a little bit of the word of mipnei, in the face of, and also we have vehadarta pnei zaken. Why does it say vehadarta pnei zaken? It should just say vehadarta zaken, and you should honor a zaken. What does it mean vehadarta pnei zaken? And what does it mean mipnei seva takum? And also the word mipnei a lot of times means biglal. It means because of. So I thought that really it's teaching us two different things. I mean, you have the Gemara over there, what's considered Seva, who's considered, is it a Zaken, Zeshakana Chachma, it's referring to somebody who's a Talmud Chachma, it's referring to somebody who has life experience, somebody who's over 70, different discussion in the Gemara. But Mipnei Seva Takum, I thought that one could express and explain that pasuk. Number one is Mipnei, because of Seva, because of older age, because of the relationship with somebody who has life's wisdom, takum, you'll be able to rise up, you'll be able to learn, you'll be able to, it's not just telling you that you have a mitzvah to stand, like the basic commandment of stand up when an elder person comes in, or stand up on the bus because it's hard for them and they're tired. But no, it's a commandment for the next generation that you could, if you connect to the elder generation, you will be able to rise up. And even more so, I think the word panim over here plays a very important role. It says vehadarta pnei zaken, and you should honor the face of a zaken. Why doesn't say vehadarta zaken, and you should honor a zaken? What's the pnei zaken over here? And just before I answer that, I'll share with you a fascinating story about Rav Aryeh Levine. Rav Aryeh Levine, great Rav here in Yerushalayim, was known for his chesed, for taking care of the sick of the hospital of the Metzuraim, the people who had leprosy. And the famous story that is told about Rav Aryeh Levine, Erev Sukkos, one of the Talmidim sees Rav Aryeh Levine walking into an esrog shop, and he picks up an esrog, and he looks at it very quickly, and it looks good. He goes to the moicher, and he pays money, and he walks out with the esrog. And the Talmud is like in shock. Rav Aryeh buys an esrog so quickly. So he walks him out and he says, Rebbe, can I ask? This is how Rebbe buys an esrog. He picks up the first esrog, he looks at it, and he runs out. So he said, you have to understand, usually I have more time. But in the Torah, it says the word hadar twice. It says, pre-eitz hadar. And you have a mitzvah to honor and to make sure you have a beautiful esrog. But it also says, vehadarta pnei zaken. You should have hadar in face of somebody who's elderly, and there's somebody who is elderly who's not well in the hospital of the Metzuraim, and I need to make sure to run to him before Shabbos comes in, before Yontiv comes in. And that's why I was mevater on spending too much time on the Hiddur of Pri Eitz Hadar, and I'm running to do the Hiddur of the Hadarta Pnei Zaken. Just a fascinating Maisa that gave me a lot of Chizuk from Rabbi Levine. But I think the reason why it says V'hadarta Pnei Zaken, you see the word Pnei, the face, represents something. Panim in Hebrew, it's not just a word that it means panim, the face. Panim comes from the word of pnim, of inside, what's inside each and every one of us. When someone, and this is what I think, and I believe the young generation, your children and grandchildren, and in general, even people who don't have grandparents, but they decided to volunteer and to help people who were in quarantine. There was a special time here in Eretz Yisrael and in the world at large of the Hadarta Pnei Zaken, of connecting and being Mahadir, not just an elderly person, but the face of an elderly person, because a face, the Panim, represents the Pnimius, the inside. What is the reason why we respect someone who has life's wisdom? Is because he's an elderly person. He has so much life experience. He's experienced so much. No computer, no data, no information can replace what you could get from somebody who has life's experience. Somebody who's been through life, who's experienced life, who's seen life, and you might see it on his wrinkles. You might see it on his warm smile and on his laughing eyes. You might see it in a lot of different facial expressions where the pnimius shines out into our panim. And that's really where the hadar of Pnei Zaken comes in, it's the understanding that nothing replaces that genuine personal relationship with somebody who has the life experience of somebody who's been through life. And that's where I believe is, even though the future is in the hands of the youth and they know technology, but really it's in the hands of the youth, but it's with the face of the elders. It's with the face of the elder generation that have that ability to see things clearly, the ability to understand things in a clear fashion. And I believe that's a very fundamental mitzvah that we have in this week's parsha, the parsha of bridging between the generations. So Rabbi Wein spoke about v'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, and you should, different ways of how one must love and respect his fellow Jew, and how that's such a basic core principle in Judaism. But on top of that, it's also bridges the relationship between the generations. And I believe that's what's so unique about the Jewish society. Jewish society is the mitzvah of Kedoshim to you was given to us as a community, was given to us together as one people, because being holy is not just for the rabbis and for the priests, and being holy is not just for an individual. And somebody thinks, oh, I might be holy if I'm all alone and I'm disconnected from society. No, it's about being connected to the previous generation. It's about being connected to one another, understanding that I could only build a brighter future if I already understand the past, if I'm able to connect to the past. And I'll share with you one other note that I thought is important as well, which is, imagine that you were in a room, chas v'shalom, with somebody who can't hear. Somebody who can't hear. He's deaf. Would we dare to chas v'shalom let out an inappropriate word or to curse a deaf person? Never in a million years. And that's really what the Torah teaches us. Lo tekalel cheresh. What does that mean? Do not curse a deaf person. It means, and that's also a mitzvah in this week's parsha, is that a lot of times in society we think that we're not supposed to do something if it harms somebody else. Meaning I'm allowed to do anything really that I want to do. I have the freedom of speech and the freedom to exercise any will and anything that I want to do, as long as it doesn't harm other people. And nowadays with this virus, even that, unfortunately, people are not sensitive about the importance of the generations. But people think as long as I'm not harming anybody else, so then it's okay. I think what the Torah is teaching us, and what we saw in the last month and a half that we were in quarantine, is that doing the right thing is not just so that you don't hurt somebody else. Lo tekal al cheirish, the deaf person will not be able to hear what you said. He will not be insulted. He won't be hurt. Nothing will happen. But you know what will happen? That you will be a person that dares and has the audacity and the low level to curse out somebody who can't hear you. It's something that harms you. And nowadays, we've been in our homes, we're limited with the amount of things we could do that are bad for other people. But even if I'm home alone, totally alone, there's certain things that I shouldn't be doing because that's not what a Jew does. A Jew is Kedoshim to you. I'm not going to minyan anymore because it's a social standard. I'm home and I'm davening because I am part of the Kedoshim to you people. The mitzvah of being holy is nothing to do with how other people will perceive me and if I'm hurting other people or not hurting other people, but how do I carry myself? Do I carry myself like royalty, like the children of Melachim? That's really what this parsha is all about. And I think this entire time period, together with the parshas that we're learning and our ability to be mechazik one another during this time period, is really an opportunity for us to strengthen our core, the core of who we are, of what we believe in, of how Kedoshim are we, how holy are we when we are alone. There's nobody else for us to harm even, but am I still doing the right thing for the sake of the right thing? Those are the two things that I wanted to share with you that are drawing out of the parsha, just to give us a little bit of an inspiration, a little bit of a message to think, to discuss over Shabbos. You know, we're here, we're home alone, so everyone is pulling out their chumashim to read through the parshas, or going out to the merpeset and listening to the next door neighbor, or maybe there is some sort of minyan, which I recommend to everybody. It's best to be machmir and to stay at home and not to go out to the minyanim if you're not 100% sure how it's going to be dealt with over there. But it is an opportunity for us to stop and to think about these ideas and about these concepts and to share them with other people and to discuss it with ourselves and with our loved ones in our own home. And with that, I hope we get the inspiration, the ability to be mechazik one another, to have another Shabbos of inspiration, of elevation, of chizuk, of excitement as we climb our way up closer and closer towards Lag BaOmer and closer towards Shavuot, Zman Matan Toraseinu. So with this, I would like to wish everybody a Shabbat Shalom, and to also say that if you're planning on doing early Shabbat, so then Mincha is pretty soon at 5:40, and that's why we're going to be ending this right now. And it's a great opportunity to say good Shabbos to everybody. If you want to send me any messages, you could do it on the chat. I'm going to take everybody off of mute, and I would like to use this opportunity to say a special mazel tov to Henry. Henry Israel became a great-grandfather. Special mazel tov.
That's when to come in the kid.
Shabbat shalom. Oh,
Shabbat shalom.
Wonderful.
Shabbat shalom, everybody.
Here we go.
Tough to Henry and
Lots of
Francis.
nachas together with everybody.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Mazel tov, Henry.
Mazel tov.
How old are you? How old is Henry?
Why she asking that?
Henry's too old. He's too young to be a great-grandfather, but Baruch Hashem, he's been able to pull it off.
Hang your bow, hang your bow.
With great effort.
That's right. These are the years that collect dividends.
Yeah.
Oh, Riva, it's good to see you. Shabbat shalom.
Smile, good to see you.
Good to
Smile,
see Mrs. Wild. Say Shabbat shalom.
That's Marilyn.
Hi, Rebbetzin. Shabbat Shalom.
Hi. Hi, Mrs.
Shabbat Shalom to all of you and Toda Rabba.
Huh?
Hey, Shabbat shalom.
Lovely girl.
Hi, Ariella.
There's a teacher in one hectare.
Good. You look ready for Shabbos.
Getting there.
Okay, Dolly.
You taking it in early?
No, we're
Not
just
there. We're
pretending,
just
we're
getting
pretending like we're ready for
I
Shabbos. We're
never
not
take Shabbos in early. Never. I don't know how to do that.
Sylvia, how are you? Great to see
Hi,
you.
Shabby. Lovely to see you.
Hi, Maddie.
Madeline Schaefer, great seeing you. Sarah Russo, great to see you as well. Mrs. Weil, you look like you're all dressed for Shabbos and ready to go.
I'm
For
not.
sure.
I'm going to go. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom, Riva. Shabbat shalom.
Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
How do you send the chat?
On the bottom, it says chat. You see on the bottom?
It says chat.
Click on it.
Can I share something I heard?
Anything.
Can I share a little something I heard in a gematria?
Okay, we would love to hear your gematria.
Tehil Bays. So in the fifth pasuk, I think it was Rav Yitzhak Zilberstein brought this down, a yesod of a remes to Corona. Hashem, and he's going to get angry at the nations. He's going. You look at pasuk Hey and Tehil Bet. It says in that pasuk, I forget the beginning, but it says, "Po b'charono." In his anger and his wrath, he's going to bring about, whatever he's going to do. So if you look at the gematria of those two words, it's 367. It's the same gematria as Corona.
Wow.
This is as I heard this from Eitan Feiner, by the way. Anyway.
Wow. Yeah, he's great with gematrias. Look at Tehila over here. Okay. Moshe, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. It's 5:50 is the early mincha.
Oh, what time is plug?
Plug is about 5:57.
Yeah, okay. So like 5:45, they down mincha, or even 5:50.
Also, the haftarah is Alohem bnei kushim.
Okay, Moshe, we need you to make these announcements. These are the important announcements.
I was late in coming in. I don't know. I wasn't able to join the thing for a while.
Okay, so we'll get you. Oh, we got another one. You want to come see on it? Oh, you're eating a snack. Okay. Do you want to give a shear on the computer? This is Yeshaya's dream. He wants to give a shear. Now Yeshaya is going to give a shear to everybody. Are you ready? Okay, go.
You everybody.
You give a shear.
You
No, you want to sing something? You want to say Nafshi? No? That's it? You finished the shear? Okay. Shall I finish the shear? Say bye-bye to everybody. Bye-bye, everybody. Okay, Shai saying bye-bye. Bye, everyone. Shabbat Shalom, Mrs. Weil. Yes, we see you. Shabbat Shalom, Hannah. David, it's good to see you.
Good to see you.
Thank you. Mrs. Sonnenblick, Dina, it's great seeing you here. Bye. Shirley March.
Shalom.
I really appreciate the email. This is March. Thank you. Okay, bye, everybody. I'm going to be logging off.